Ladies and gents, welcome back. Alberta is calling. That's the slogan that the province has taken on, largely due to the large number of jobs that are available there, the low cost of living. They're enticing Canadians from around the country to move to Alberta. Some are on a holdout because of an election that's coming up. If NDP's Rachel Notley were to get in, well, Albertans know just how bad things can get in that situation. It may dwindle those numbers and rise the cost of living. But Danielle Smith, the current premier of Alberta, she is fighting a battle against the federal government, and that comes from their just transition, as they're calling it. We have an op-ed here from True North. The just transition is injustice to Albertans. As Justin Trudeau, Liberals continue to crusade their eco-radicalism, Albertans are met with perhaps the biggest slap in the face yet. Just last week, Natural Resource Minister Jonathan Wilkinson announced the federal government's intentions to roll out a just transition, in quotes, legislation over the coming weeks. The plan is to replace high-paying jobs in the energy sector with green jobs, such as solar panel installation techs. Stemming from the 2015 Paris Agreement on climate change, it's been touted by Trudeau and his team as a sustainable and forward-thinking plan. Any losses will be compensated. While the early buzzwords are unsurprisingly vague, it's clear the plan is certainly not just and is most definitely another attack on the West. And, well, Danielle Smith had a few words to say about this just transition, and we'll have a listen to that here.
So Alberta is still calling, which means that there is work for those who are looking. And that work is an ever-increasing number of industries and sectors as our province continues to diversify its economy. This is why I'm also concerned about Justin Trudeau's just transition, as he calls it, because when I hear the words just transition, it signals eliminating jobs. And for Alberta, that is a non-starter. I think we all share the same goals when it comes to reducing emissions, and that's across all industries, including oil and natural gas. We are working with the federal government closely on technologies like carbon capture, utilization and storage, hydrogen, critical minerals, but the good work gets lost when they use this kind of divisive, polarizing language. Because the world is looking for energy, for more petrochemicals, for more LNG. This is not an industry in decline, but it is one of the industries that is strategic to world energy security. And Alberta is one of the most responsible producers of energy in the world and has been for decades. We will continue to advocate on behalf of the hundreds of thousands of workers whose livelihoods depend on this industry. And we expect the federal government to stand up for our world-leading oil and natural gas workers instead of trying to eliminate their jobs. I think it's a big threat. And the reason for that is the language that are used.
So before we continue on, just catching up with what she's saying there, and a lot of the jobs that are created here could be could grow a lot more if the federal government would step out of the way. There's a lot of LNG demand in Europe right now, and LNG pipeline that was supposed to go to British Columbia from Alberta was quashed by, well, both the federal government and the NDP government in British Columbia and Alberta. So, well, with the NDP not being in Alberta right now, and there being a recall on the NDP leader of British Columbia, we're looking at a chance that we could actually supply the world with the natural gas that they're asking for. This is when we're in a crisis where Germany is looking for natural gas from Canada. If we can't get it, we could obviously supply it, but they're reliant on Russia, and this is supposed to be one of these things that the federal government is trying to work against. Everyone being reliant on Russia with the conflict that's going on. I have no dog in that fight there, but I definitely think that we should be the ones supplying this natural gas. So of course, many other countries in Asia are also asking for this natural gas, which could be a huge boon to our economy. but instead is, well, just got fizzled out, and people are just sitting on this project waiting for the regime to change. But anyway, let's get back to what Danielle Smith was saying here.
Using. Just transition is the language that they used when they phased out the coal industry. It is a social justice term. If they wanted to talk about sustainable jobs, that's completely different. And we'd be quite happy to talk to them about sustainable jobs in carbon tech, sustainable jobs in hydrogen, sustainable jobs in this new economy that we're developing around small modular nuclear and other types of projects. I think we're all on board with that. But to use that terminology, they're virtue signaling to an extreme base that is openly advocating to shut down oil and natural gas. Because look at what happened at a COP27. The final communique talked about ultimately shutting down the oil and natural gas industry in the same way that coal had been phased out. We have a prime minister who, when you ran in the last election, talked about that the need to phase out oil sands eventually. He looked at it as inevitability. We don't look at it that way at all. We think that the world is going to need more natural gas. We believe that with carbon capture technology, it's going to make it more and more sustainable. Hydrogen at its base, the best way to make it is out of methane, which is natural gas. When you look at our oil sands producers, they have an aggressive strategy to reduce emissions and use more bitumen beyond combustion. There's a petrochemical industry that we've been supporting here. So we're just shifting the paradigm. This is not about phasing out any of these jobs. It's about growing them and expanding the opportunity for oil and natural gas workers. And that's the kind of language I would like to hear the Prime Minister use, because we I think, missed an opportunity when the German Chancellor was here saying that there wasn't a business case for LNG. The Japanese Prime Minister is coming this week begging us to do more development so that we can export LNG. And I would like, for a change, for the Prime Minister to say, yes, we can, and to work with us on making that happen. And this kind of targeted attack on our industry, it doesn't lend itself to cooperative federalism. That's what I'm worried about, and I do take him seriously because of the past statements that he's made on this.
Before we get on with what else she has to say here, I wanted to jump in and just mention that, well, there's been a push towards electric vehicles, and this, it seems for the federal government to be the do-all, end-all for technology, essentially. I've done other videos on this, but anyone who knows about technology and how things work, there are entire areas of the country that purely electric vehicles will just not work. When it's minus 40 outside, you're not going to get these electric vehicles to do what they do. Phasing out entirely technologies like fossil fuels is not something that's viable looking forward. And even if we embrace the electric motor for a lot of our uses, that's great. That's fantastic. But it's not going to be 100% of everything moving forward. These, oil, bitumen, these are things that we definitely need, the world needs, and we're going to keep using. And the rest of the world is also going to keep using. And we're going to end up, if we shut down these industries, end up like Germany, where they've shut down their nuclear facilities in the hopes of using renewable energies, as they call them, which is solar and wind, only to find out, well, they don't have enough of that, and they're going to have to get natural gas from, well, Russia. And, well, here they are. They're chopping down their forests to get heat for the winter this year because of their poor planning, their mismanagement, and we don't want to find ourselves in a similar situation here in Canada. New technologies are great, but they can be implemented with the technologies that already exist, and that's how we move forward. Anyway, back to Danielle Smith here.
What I do know is that when we had an equalization referendum to say we wanted to start a change in our relationship with the federal government, within days, Justin Trudeau appointed Stephen Guilbeault. Stephen Guilbeault has since denounced that he wanted to have an emissions cap on fertilizer, emissions cap on oil and natural gas, that he wants to have a mandatory carbon capture on our power grid, that he wants to have mandatory purchase of combustion engine vehicles, that we're bringing through clean fuel standards, that he wants to increase the amount of biodiversity coverage in our province. That seems to me to be provocative. They've taken over plastics. They wouldn't allow us to back out of the carbon tax. How many hits can Alberta take before we say stop it, put up a shield, and start pushing back? So I would say that everything that I have done to this point has been in response to what I have seen as a hostile federal government invading our jurisdiction. And I think Albertans expect me to stand up for Albertans. That's what I'm going to do.
Absolutely.
So Alberta is still
Stephen
calling.
Stephen Guilbeault was the minister that they appointed for this. He was traditionally, and part of an some would consider an eco-terrorist, eco-radical group. And this is the eco-radicals resorted to banning, blocking, and barricading. And that's exactly what earlier insights into the just transition have revealed, a blatant desire of the Trudeau elites to keep our best in the world Alberta energy in the ground. So this is them doing exactly what Trudeau said he didn't want happening in Canada, and that's blockading and well, what did he call it during the convoy? It was violence against the economy. Well, this is what's happening here. But Stephen Guilbeault, he was, they call him Uneven Steven in this here. Don't forget the approach has been a signature style of Environment Minister in Uneven Steven Guilbeault, the former head of eco-radical group Equiterre, who illegally scaled the then Premier Ralph Klein's house to install solar panels as a part of a bizarre anti-oil stunt. So he's, and going into what Danielle was just saying here, Stephen Guilbeault is one of the environmentalists, and like people of the and I tell people to be economical, not environmental, because this is grievance culture. It's not about actually coming to the table with solutions. It's about shutting things down. And a lot of these people have ideologies that I would say are unsavory to Western traditions. And well, we ought to question them entirely. But when people come to the table like Stephen Guilbeault with their grievances and wanting to ban products rather than come forward with new ideas and see how they take off in the marketplace of ideas, no, they come in, shut down things that they don't like arbitrarily, and the rest of us have to live with that. But this is the just transition that Justin Trudeau is bringing in, and this is going to be his legacy when he leaves. Part of many of the things of his legacy as he leaves the office of Prime Minister in the next couple of years. Well, we have to suffer this until he's gone. But thank God we have people like Danielle Smith to fight back against these things. And who knows how many people will end up, moving to Alberta. As Alberta is calling. And this is the approach that they're bringing forward for us. Anyway, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think of this and the push and push back of the federal government and Alberta fighting back. I know there are some people in this audience that think that Alberta should just outright leave Canada. And that has been an option for some people, but Danielle Smith obviously saying that that's not her purview. She wants to remain within Canada and have a healthy relationship with the federal government. Anyway, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you tonight in the live stream at 6:30 Pacific time. That's 9:30 Eastern, right here on the channel. Keep on trucking.